Alright, so I'm going to tie an improved governor. This is out of John Shuey's book. It's not this one specifically, but these are some of the options that he provides. We're going to do it just a little bit differently. So this here is black bear with fox underneath for the underwing. I'm going to use red wool instead of red floss. It's my understanding originally it was tied with red floss. Majority of what you're going to see tied in this pattern is with red floss. But red wool lets me expedite the tying process a little bit more quickly. And I'm going to swap out this golden pheasant crest that's been dyed red for just a regular red golden pheasant feather, natural color. And so there's several variations to it. You can actually they've got nymph patterns for this as well. So I'm going to start my thread. I'm using 30 denier GSP about where I want the back of my head or my wing to start. I'm going to put that up on the return eye. When I come down over that return, I'm going to stop, trim this out. You can try this on a wide range of sizes. So using the wool, or essentially dubbing, allows me to kind of backfill this void on the return. We don't have to get all nice and pretty with our thread wraps. I'm just going to come in just past the point. Now this part you do want to make kind of nice so that it sits well. I'm just using gold oval tinsel. I'll hold it up here in a second so you can see it. And we don't need a monster tag. Well, this is what I'm using here. Uni French gold oval tinsel. And so I guess you could say this is a quicker way to tie it. Using more of a dubbing type method. Bring that down and around, lift up and under. And I'm going to tie that back because I think you know what, I may not have enough hand room. So I'll just tie this in going forward. I stopped and looked at it a second time, so I'm not sure I got enough there. I knew I cut it kind of close, and I've got another one in reserve, so it's no big deal. Oops. Bumped my material. So just tie this down. I'm just going to jump the thread to the back. And if you're going to take these fishing, what I'll use here is a little Sally Hansen's. Oh, that's a whole lot. Just on the tag here. Helps give it a little shine, a little protection. Try to get your fly to hold up a little longer. Okay. So next what I have here is just a golden pheasant red feather. And I've licked them together so they don't go all over the place. I'm going to try to keep sort of the same profile. You could use, I've seen people use red floss or yarn coming out the back. So you can experiment with that a little bit. I'm just going to draw this close. That's good enough. Yeah, that's good. And I'll just kind of jump this guy forward. using these substitute materials is kind of nice because you don't have to make it so fancy. Although this is not too terribly difficult to fly to tie if you're into tying fancier flies. So next I'll get another piece of oval tinsel, gold. This time I'm just going to tie it down on the bottom side. And bring it so that it meets up with my tail fibers. And then what I have here is just some wool. I've already stretched it out and laid it over on top of itself like so. This is just sculpin wool. It's nothing fancy. But we do want it to sit pretty flat, or tight I should say. So I'm going to go ahead and wax up here just to try to help with some of that. A lot of sizes I've seen, anywhere from, I'm tying this on a 3 Alec Jackson, down to I think a 7. And I did see one guy tie it on a double, which was kind of interesting. It kind of looked like a different fly, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. And so I just want to make sure I keep my rope tight here, not let it get away from me. Traditionally this is about a 2/3 to 1/3 fly, so 1/3 in the back red and 2/3 peacock. I think I'll live with that there. Maybe just a little bit over, but you know, you got a little artistic creativity here. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this forward. Oops. There, it'll sit for me. So I'll get about 3.5 turns or so there. That jumped on me in the last second. I'll just tie that off and up. It doesn't matter if it runs on you or which way it goes. Now I like to reinforce my peacock herl, so I'm going to make a fairly good sized dubbing loop and bring this back. I'm going to cut this out just before I get to the back. And then just for reassurance, I'm going to glue that front end. Make sure all that GSP sticks together in one nice piece. Okay. I'm trying to work that back up there where it's supposed to be. That'll work. Next, you want to get a decent amount of peacock herl. I don't know what I have here. Probably close to a dozen. You want it nice and thick and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to cut out the front inch or so. I'm just going to line that up so that it meets up basically with the return. Just tie this in coming forward. like to try to get that when the glue's still wet, and then that way, let me get rid of that. That one's short. But then that way, it's nice and secure. Just kind of preen all this out by rubbing my fingers through it. Grab my hackle pliers. Clamp on down towards the base. Oh, I gotta redo that now. That's all right. It's a lot of peacock. It doesn't always like to work with you. And then I'm going to start to twist this all up. Don't over twist so that you pop the herl. I'm going to take my medium toothbrush and run it through as I start to come around every turn or two. Twist it up a little more. Brush the herl out a little more. And if you run out of herl, which I may end up doing here, you can always stop, tie off, and add more. See if I can get up there. I'm trying to just tie a fishing version of this and not a show version of this, which I so badly want to do. I just tie these kind of flies, and I love the way they look, so I try to make them extra pretty and all that. Okay. I think I'll live with that. And then you come in and trim it out. I trim this out on the top side so that it gets hidden. That's good enough. Because if you want to come in and clean it up a little bit, you can. And clean it up just a little bit for the thumbnail's sake, but in reality it doesn't really, that's not going to change much or anything. Okay, so just to make sure I've got this all locked in place, I'm going to do a glued whip finish here before I move on to the hackle and the wing. Okay. So next for the collars, I've just got a natural brown hen. Strip all the fuzz off the bottom. And we'll size it up. It's probably a little bit longer than I want it. The goal is that you get this basically back to your herl. And you can vary it, you know. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's close enough. You can strip one side of this if you want, or if you like a bunch. That's up to you, but we'll tie this in wet style. This feather's got a wicked curve to it, and the camera's in my way. Put a few turns in one way, reverse it. A few turns in the other. That's one thing I like about 30 denier GSP is a lot of strength, no build up. We're going to kind of double this over and fold it back as we bring our collar around. That worked out well. Real nice on that one. Okay. And again, I've seen people leave the collar full. I've seen some push it down. Personally, I just like the look of it drawn down so that your collar hackle is down. But you make that call. Okay. Get rid of those couple renegades. Easier to do it now than later. For the wing, the original wing called for dark brown bucktail, and that's what I'm going to use here. It's just the back of a bucktail. So if you look at a bucktail and you've got all that dark brown hair on the back, this one just happens to be dyed tan. Just so it didn't mess with the original color. That's all I'm using. And we want the wing to sit there you go. Not all the way to the tail, but basically to the bend. And that'll work. Do an elevated pinch wrap, pop over, set down. Add some tension, pull up. For the wing, again, you can use black bear. I've seen people use fox squirrel. So you've got some options there. Try to keep that head small if possible. And again, since we're tying a fishing fly, I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to my thread instead of directly to the bucktail. That way I can pinpoint where I want that glue to go. I can really pull down on that. Open it up. That's sitting about right. And we're going to trim this off at an angle. I'm just going to do it little bits at a time. Make sure I don't create a drop off. And it's a little more than I want. A lot of people use razor blades for this. I actually prefer razor blades to do this, but I don't have any that are sharp enough to handle this at the moment. I don't want anything sticking out of the face of the fly, if I can help it. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and tie all that down. Cool. And then for the big finish, a couple jungle cock eyes. You want to try to get them to go back to where the hurl ends. That's what you'll see mostly done. And then angled slightly up into the wing. I'll put the far one in. And you don't even have to have jungle cock eyes. You could use, if If you're tying these smaller, you could use some starling or something. If you want to have a similar look, that's pretty good. And just got to trim these out. Color wet whip. Or I guess you could lacquer if you wanted. Or you can use black thread too. I just like 30 denier GSP. It's my go-to thread. I use it for everything from midges to salmon flies, and helps me not have to buy a ton of thread. Plus it takes color really well. And when you use a black marker, Crazy Glue works really well. I put a whole lot on there, more than I thought, but it works really well and not changing the color for black. You get into other colors and it'll change the color fairly, not even well, harshly really. So, but you again, you could put like an underwing in if you wanted to, if you want to change it up a little bit. This is fairly close to the original. Just using a few different materials. And one more. So, after this, I'm just going to whip finish, but build your head and call it good. Sometimes it takes a second longer than you want. If you like to fly, drop a comment below. Always love to hear from you guys and gals. A lot of gals watching the channel now, which is great. And if you have something you want to see me tie, or I can't tie everything, but I'll sure try to help you out if I can, let me know. And definitely make an effort. That head's not quite as big as you think it is. That's a lot of glue build up there. And so, with that said, almost got it down on the eye. Didn't quite color it enough. But with that said, Ryan, I hope that helped you out, buddy. I know I had another guy asking me to drop a steelhead fly, and this is a very old traditional steelhead pattern. If you place it right, you'll still have enough room for a tuttle knot like I have there. So, pretty cool fly. Kind of one of those classic patterns. A lot of times what I'll do is when this dries is I'll go ahead and coat it with some UV resin just to make it look pretty, similar to this one, but you know, we don't need to sit here and wait for everything to dry to do that. So with that said, appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Would love to have you subscribe. And like I said, let me know if there's something you want to see done or I can help you with. Happy to do so. Another than that, as always, everybody, happy tying. Take care. And we'll see you next time.